Hey, what's up everyone? Today we have a super special video. Everyone knows that most creators have their own movement guides, and honestly they're all pretty good. You should go watch them. But one thing I've noticed through the three that I've watched is that they only really go over one single input method. So today we'll be going over movement and how to do it with what I consider to be the big three of the input methods. So I'm your coach, Crip6, and we have a lot to cover, so let's get started. So my big three input methods are a default controller with a default layout, a modded controller, meaning either it has paddles on the back or it has a different button scheme such as bumper jumper or the evolve scheme, and then finally the third one is a mouse and keyboard. If you want to see me fly around a lot with any of these techniques in these videos, follow me at twitch.tv/Crip6 and hang out with me in chat. The link is in the description below. Alright, so first things first, bump up your FOV. It might feel like you're playing through a fishbowl at first, but it will make you feel faster. Just trust me, bump it up to FOV. I personally play 100 FOV and recommend anything above 90. Since I'm most versed in the full default controller input method, we'll be using that to go over the basics before we get into the differences between all the input methods. So first thing everyone needs to learn about is wall running and how to do it well. So when you jump on a wall, your character grabs the wall, runs along it, and this gives you a speed boost, essentially. That's faster than your base sprinting speed. The thing about wall running, though, is the longer you spend on the wall, the less of a speed boost you get. Because of this, wall kicks became a thing. Wall kicks are when you hit a wall and immediately jump off it again. This gives you a major speed boost, and it's a great way to zoom around a map. The best way to time your wall kicks is to give the jump input either before or as your gun begins to dip as you start the wall run. Just watch closely and you can see that your gun dips when you grab a wall. You want to do it before or during that dip. Be careful and make sure you don't give the input too early, as nothing will happen. You'll just do a normal wall run, like you'll double jump onto the wall, and that's all that will happen. And make sure you don't do it too late, which won't give you the same speed boost as a proper wall kick. Wall running and kicking is the easiest way to pick up speed quickly. Next up, we'll cover air strafing because of its implications in slide hopping and other movement tech. So, since Titanfall is a source game, we get to do this great little thing called air strafing, right? This lets us fly through the air and control where we're going or turn corners cleanly while moving at high speeds. This also lets us eject from the Titan and control where we're going to land. I'll demonstrate air strafing to you by ejecting from my Titan. So if you look closely at my controller, as soon as I give the last input to eject from my Titan, I start to hold my movement stick to the right and my camera stick to the right as well. This is how air strafing works. You look and give input movements in the same direction that you want to go, and the game allows you to do that movement. Note this only really works with normal ejections. Nuke eject kind of takes this air strafing away from you, but that's okay. Just use normal ejections if you want to air strafe out of a Titan. But while flying through the air, you can change the direction you're going by just moving your camera and movement input whichever way you need to go. Now I'm doing it with mouse and keyboard, and you can see I just hold A or D and move my mouse left or right. That's all I'm doing here. In general, so I'm just simulating my controller inputs with my mouse and keyboard. In general, you can only do air strafing to the left and right, but as long as the strafe is started with forward motion, that momentum will be preserved, and you can move left and right and preserve that movement the entire time. So now that you know about air strafing, I can teach you about slide hopping. So again, I'm most versed in the default controller input method. We'll go over slide hopping with that first. You can start a slide hop by either wall running and landing in a crouch position, or you can just slide and start it up, or I like to jump and then land in a sliding position. That's what I do usually. But if you're like me and are a grapple main, you can start a slide hop with a grapple slingshot. Anyways, once you hit a slide animation, you want to immediately jump. Before you hit the ground again, you need to be back in the crouch position so that you can slide again. As soon as you hit the ground, jump again and repeat this sequence. Now the trick to slide hopping is the air strafing part of it. You do not, I repeat, do not want to hold forward with your movement input. You want to hold left or right and move your camera left and right, just like we talked about with air strafing. This gives you as much speed as possible. The game caps your speed at a certain value if you hold forward, but if you air strafe properly, you bypass the speed limit and you can go as fast as possible. Air strafing is also how we turn when slide hopping. So while you're in the air, if of your slide hop, you air strafe either right or left to turn yourself. This is why we went over air strafing first, so that you were able to turn yourself while also slide hopping. This is the general way to slide hop, so now I'm going to explain the differences between all the different input methods. So first is the default controller with a default button layout. So the X is jump and the circle is crouch or slide for this. This is probably the most difficult way to get a smooth slide hop to work, but it can be accomplished with lots of practice. I do hold my controller with a relaxed grip, so my index finger is up by the triggers and my thumbs rest on the joysticks naturally. The biggest thing about this input method is having a fast right thumb. I've seen a lot of people play it with claws, so claw is your middle finger is up by the triggers and your index finger hits the buttons, so you don't have to move your thumbs from the joysticks, but I can't play claw, that makes my hands cramp. So this is a relaxed grip. So all you have to do is have a fast right thumb. So every time I'm slide hopping, I flick my thumb up to the crouch button and immediately slide it to the jump button and then down to the joystick so I can air strafe. I then repeat this process with my thumb and leave my left thumb to give all the movement inputs. And my index finger gets to handle all the shooting and grenades and stuff like that. Next up is the, in quotation marks, modded controller. A controller with paddles or a different button layout. Just something with a button that you consistently hold to slide hop. I'll be demonstrating this with a controller with a strike pack attached to it to give me 2 paddles on the back of my controller. The right one is bounded to the circle button on my controller and the left one is bounded to the X button. So right is crouch and slide and left is jump. So on the controller diagram, when the circle is lit up, I'm pressing the right paddle and the X is lit up when I press on the left paddle. The biggest thing you need to do is first go to your settings and turn on hold to crouch. This makes all your movement so much smoother, but in the end, it is personal preference and you can do it without hold to crouch. With this, instead of flicking your thumb to the buttons on the right, all you have to do is grip the paddles on the back. Since you can hold this button down, you can hold it for the entire slide hop and you don't have to sacrifice aiming or air strafing for being able to actually press the slide and jump inputs. So you start the slide hop by giving the slide input, then grip the other paddle or whatever your bind for jump is. From there, it's just repeating the slide and jump process. The reason this method is considered better than the last is because you don't have to fly around with your thumb trying to cram the air strafes between inputs. So this is just me slide hopping with paddles, and you notice I don't have to double jump as much to be able to air strafe properly, and overall it's just a lot smoother. I highly recommend getting paddles or something similar so you can have this smoothness, or just finding a good button layout that you can customize in Titanfall and finding what's comfortable for you. Now finally we get to go over mouse and keyboard slide hopping. For this I bind my crouch to a side button on my mouse, but I know a lot of people bind it somewhere on their keyboard such as Control or C. Astreus is a great mouse and keyboard movement guy. Go check him out after you're done here. And he has his crouch binded to Control, and he's a god. So, but anyways, the process to slide up here is essentially the same as it is for a modded controller. Again, I highly recommend you turn on hold to crouch so it's a lot smoother. The only difference here is that instead of the analog input of a controller, you have the digital inputs of a keyboard. So now instead of holding left to right, you have to hold the A or D key. So as you hold A, move your mouse to the left, and when you hold D, move your mouse to the right. This is how you air strafe on a mouse and keyboard, and it's extremely helpful. Other than that, it's just holding whatever your crouch button is and practicing your timing for jumping. Anyways, that was my movement guide. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you join all the communities in the description below. And that's it. I'm your coach, Grip6, and keep learning.